Good evening, everybody. Good evening,
Hello,
Althea.
hello, Rainbow. It's
How are
nice to see you.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. And um, just for anybody who doesn't know you, why don't you just take a quick minute to introduce yourself and say why you're here?
Absolutely. No, let me catch up with all of us because I know that we have a lot of our regulars already viewing. But if you are not one of our regulars, if we could refer to as one of our irregulars, my name is Inbal. I'm a psychic tarot reader and witch, but I'm here tonight specifically, or this evening, depending where your time zone is, to just back up Althea on her show. I'm here pulling all the levers and pressing all the buttons, making sure that we're all running smoothly, moving the messages that you'll be sending right here into the screen, and just sort of helping with the safe running of the show. The star of the show is Althea, who is joining us from Minnesota.
Wisconsin, close. Midwest, pretty close. And we
Yeah.
should say that Chris Grizzly is doing just fine. He just had something else because we know the last couple of weeks he was feeling under the weather, but he's recuperating. He's still on the mend, but I feel so happy to have Inbal here producing and co-hosting with me and answering questions because she's a hoot. We've done a couple shows together in the past, and we always had a great time. She is extremely knowledgeable and a real good soul sister. So I'm so thrilled that we'll be spending this hour together, and hopefully it'll be a lot of fun for y'all. Remember to put whatever comments or questions or topics you want to be talking about tonight in the chat, and she'll see them because I don't really watch them, but she'll watch what's there and she'll pop up onto the main screen anything that y'all are asking or feel like you'd like to know more about. So that's kind of that.
Amazing.
And
So I know that
yep.
you've got a few things already prepared, but
Mm-hmm.
just in case there are irregulars, do you want
Yeah,
to give us like a real quick reintro?
sure.
What your specialties are, what your passions are, what are you into at the moment? Because if I know mystics, and I
Yeah,
literally only know mystics, we
yeah,
get really excited about something, and that'll
yeah,
be like our focus and our passion for,
yeah,
6 months, couple of years, and then there'll
yeah,
be something, there'll be another planet that will
exactly.
sort of demand our attention. So
Yeah.
where's your heart at the moment?
So my heart at the moment is about preparing for ascension energy, and the earth changes that are coming within the next few years, and the benevolent interdimensional beings that are going to be popping up over the next few years in much bigger and more obvious ways. And so essentially it's how can I help who's ever watching, listening, engaging with me, whether it's a retreat that I'm doing or a workshop online or one-on-one sessions. It's how can we help you become the best possible version of you, quickening your energy, aligning your thoughts, your actions, your life with your soul's purpose, and activating, accentuating, enhancing all of your abilities and gifts to make the whole process smoother, easier, etc. And doing it all in a way that doesn't make it seem airy-fairy or weird or like you have to be special. This is our human birthright, and this is happening to everyone. It's just a matter of who's paying attention and are you focusing on it and working on it. So that's why this whole show is called Spiritual Street Talk. It's like, all right, let's demystify some of the topics that people think are like, well, this is really weird. Like, what is that? Or how to put it in words that explain it and thank you and make things a little bit more approachable. I want to inspire people that watch the show to be kinder, better people out in the world, to make a conscious effort to have a positive impact on everybody and everyone they meet or touch with their life, and also to have a sense of curiosity and want to know more and be playful with it. Because if you approach spirituality and you approach psychic gifts or whatever soul level abilities you're trying to bring through and learning about intuition, it's like, oh, that word intuition. Well, it can be kind of wishy-washy for some people. But if you think about it, it's the coherence between your brain, your intellect, what you're thinking, your heart, what you're feeling, and your gut, what you know on some level that you're not maybe quite sure of how you know it, but you just know you know it. And it's that partnership of those three parts of you. And so when you say the word intuition, some people are like, I don't have, yes, you do. Do you think? Yep. Do you have feelings? Yep. Do you have gut knowings? Yep. You have intuition, right? So breaking things down to make it accessible and reminding people to just do better, be brighter, shine your light, be the best possible version you can. And when you're stuck in the quicksand, figure out how to get out as quickly as you can, because we all wind up in the quicksand. So we keep it real on this show. So when we've had a sucky week, we talk about that sucky week, but we also talk about how we moved on and figured out, okay, what did I need to do to change my focus or change my actions so I got out of that quicksand? And sometimes it means call a friend, call somebody who's been in that trap before and knows how to get out a little quicker, a little easier. They can throw you that rope, right? We don't have to suffer. We don't have to stay in negativity. We have choice. We have options. The other theme, I think, is teaching people how to ask better questions, because what you think about and the questions you ask will dictate where your energy flows, because thoughts will direct where your thoughts go, energy flows. What you keep obsessing upon or what you see and visualize in your mind, you're going to create in your reality and get more and more of the same. So if you listen to the dark voice that says return pain for pain or evil for evil, or I got hurt, so I'm going to hurt you even more, that's keeping you in this negative loop that's just going to suck you down deeper and deeper, and your light is going to get less and less and less. If instead you return whatever you're given with a sense of forgiveness, understanding, compassion, and love, and say, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm not going to let any negativity make me less vibrant, make me less effective, pull me off of my path. And yeah, bad things happen to good people, but it gives us an opportunity to learn resilience, to learn how to be more powerful, to be able to help each other, to be more vulnerable. Because a lot of people walk around their whole life very closed, and it takes a crisis, or it takes some sort of drama or trauma to get them to realize, like, oh, I need help. I need to open up. And the whole reason we're here together is because we're together. We're not supposed to be little islands of independence and having to figure everything out on our own. And thanks to the internet, oh my goodness, and social media, now we have ways that, my goodness, inbounds across the
community is huge.
Right?
If I tried to walk to your house, it would take me weeks. I would also have to swim a lot. So we are so gifted in this day and age because our community is huge. It's far reaching. And that also allows us to reach out for people who are differently abled or who might not speak the same first language as us, because we can use services that help us sort of cross over from one culture to the other. I feel like we're living at an age that enables us to be so connected.
Yes.
Which I think makes it so much more painful for the people who aren't. And really, this is, you know, I think this is from both of us going out to you. If all you do is watch, that's still phenomenal. That's fantastic. Let yourself watch, let yourself become a part of it without needing to, you know, without forcing yourself to go further than where you're comfortable.
And this moment, this hour can be that sanctuary from the chaos, from the darkness, from the frustrations that are out there. And this can be a place where you can just be you. This is a judgment-free zone. There is nothing anybody can say or do on the show that is going to receive anything back from me and from Grizz and from Inbel. I know the same, other than, okay, let me ponder on what you just said and come back with the most thoughtful, compassionate, spirit prompted response possible to hopefully uplift, comfort, give you guidance, and help you shine your light a little bit more when you're feeling a bit dim because of the world around you. And I don't know how things are over in the UK right now, but these last few months since our election, there's been a lot of chaos and a lot of darkness and a lot of dissension and diversity challenges and contention around. And it's something that if you get too sucked into, it can detract you. It's kind of like the person with ADHD. It's like, oh, squirrel, oh, shiny object. It's like, but instead of it being something positive to engage you, you get sucked into the muck and mire of it. Plus, you get compounded with the feeling of helplessness because there's not a lot the average citizen can really do about the situation right now, other than figure out how can I get through this time in the most calm, brightest, positive way, and so that we can all survive and be a better us on the other side of this.
With each individual sort of being the light as much as they can be.
Yes.
So
yes.
In the UK, there's other stuff going on, but still sort of there's fear mongering that is sort of creeping around. There's a lot of talk about this public service will close and that public service will close because it's a welfare state. And so there is fear that if a public service closes, the private services are hugely unaffordable because the class system is still alive and well and thriving more than ever. So there's still that kind of fear that is being used to keep people quiet. So it's a little bit different, but also a little bit kind of the same.
Well, it's the fear of other, right? Fear of anybody who's different than who's ever in charge or who's ever running that particular thing, and it makes me sad because our whole message on a lot of these shows is about the oneness, that we all come from a common source. And so a lot of the outer world chatter would make you think, oh, no, we can't be one because we should be afraid of the other. And the other is evil and the other is different. And the other prays to a different God or doesn't believe in God or whatever, right? It's like, no, there's no judgment here, guys. We're all in this together. There's many different expressions. There's many ladders leading to the same roof, right? So it really shouldn't matter whether you're Christian or Muslim or atheist or Wiccan or anything else, right? We're all human beings. We're spirits that have been courageous enough to come into body in this time and place and all the craziness of the world. So we were really either the most foolish or the bravest of the brave, right, to come down now and be in this world trying to shine our light and do our purpose and live our life's purpose and fulfill the measure of our creation. With all this other distraction, learning how to weed out what's not important to you personally and to figure out how can I contribute and ease the pain and suffering in the world? How can I be a force for good, be benevolent, help others, make other people's life better as my legacy, right? Yeah. When you go out there, that's what you want to have, that positive impact, right? Regardless of the craziness. So the more you believe that you are apart, that you are different, that you are other than the others, not a part of some greater whole, you're missing the metaphysical point of life and you're getting sucked into the worldly muck and mire that's filled with that contention and the pain. So if you want peace, you have to shine the light. So we talked a tiny bit last week about this. St. Augustine had said, instead of cursing the darkness, light a candle.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of us bitching and moaning about all the things in our home, our work, our society, our life that we don't like, figure out how can we be a light in that area? What do we need to change? How can we be the change we want to have and start that process? Don't blame others. Don't have a victim mentality. Take total accountability for your life. Become more and more self-aware of what you want, what you're doing and whether or not you're being congruent or actually working against yourself or towards yourself and becoming the best possible version of you possible. Right?
Absolutely. Twisted, a little Twisted sent us a beautiful quote from Napoleon Hill that says, faith or fear, where one is found, the other cannot exist.
Very
And
true.
yeah, I'm not like particularly religious or anything, but in Jewish culture, we say if those that believe are not afraid. Those that believe are not afraid. It sounds better in Hebrew, but those that believe are not afraid. If you have faith, then you know. You don't think that things will turn out fine. You know that things will turn out fine. And for somebody who's not very religious, my faith is profound and unshakable.
And you know, if you think back in your life, and anyone who's listening thinks back on about your life, I can guarantee there have been times in your life where there was drama, trauma, crisis, pain, things that sucked so badly that you're like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to get through this. And somehow, whether it was by the grace of the universe, whether you want to say grace of God, by the source, by whatever benevolent sources there are, angels, beings, loved ones in spirit, somehow the help of other people around you, you got through. You learned, you got through, and you can look back on that now and say, wow, you know, I made it through that. And in fact, I grew, and some of the lessons and blessings that came on the other side of that struggle and that transformation, you know, it was so worth it. You know, and I think of the caterpillar that is probably moaning and groaning like, I got to build this cocoon, and what is happening to my body, and ow, this hurts, and oh my God, this hurts, and oh, this really sucks. And now I got to break through something else. But now I have wings, and I'm flying, and I'm beautiful, and I'm not bound to having to scooch and crawl on the branch. I can fly.
Yeah, an extra dimension.
Right? It's like, but it had to be willing to go through that transformation and that pain. So, you know, pain doesn't have to be a negative. You know, the only thing that we have control over is how we choose to think about and feel about and experience whatever's happening around us and to us. That we can control. We have choice. We can look at anything, the most horrible situation, and if instead of saying, why me, or bemoaning, this isn't fair, or, you know, why did this terrible thing happen to me? If instead the question can be, I wonder what I can learn from this, or I wonder what amazing blessing is going to come on the other side of this. And those are the questions that you ponder. Or I wonder what the quickest way through this trial is going to be. Or I wonder who's going to miraculously show up in the right place at the right time with the right people to help me get further along my path and get out of this hole if I feel like I'm stuck in a hole or stuck in quicksand. Right? So if those are the kind of questions you have, you're going to send that energy out into the universe and be greeted with the answers and moving along more quickly and more grace. And instead of feeling like you're being punished, it's like this exploration, this journey, this even a quest. You know, you can give it a significance and say, every other time in my life when I went through a major transformation, boy, it was filled with amazing things on the other side. So if I feel myself starting down that transformation alley again, I'm like, okay, I know it's a little creepy. I know it's a little scary. I know it's going to be painful on some level, but boy, I know it's going to be worth it. Right? So if you have that attitude, it's almost like, you know, we could make it really simplistic. People that go to the gym regularly or go swimming regularly, you know, they get up, and instead of staying under the covers and making a ton of excuses, they get their sorry butts off to the gym or off to the pool. They have figured out that I am a better person for having the discipline to get myself there and do something that's good for my body and start my day off in this feeling of I'm doing something positive. And maybe you're not in that kind of sync, but perhaps your challenge that you overdo every morning is you get up and you make your bed. And you're like, no matter what happens today, I made my bed. Or I did the dishes and I have a clean sink to come home to.
Success. Exactly.
Right?
It's a success. It's a win. It's a huge win because it is mind over matter. And you might be exhausted, or you might be so browbeaten that the very thought of making your bed is sending you exhausted, and yet you override it, you overcome it, you go and you do it. You deserve all the applause, because you did it when it was hard. Do you know how much better it will be when you do it when it's easy? But you did it when it was hard. You've built up that kind of mental muscle. And with that in mind, have you got some predictions for us? Have you got some cards
I do.
For everyone?
I do. Yep. So for anybody who's new to the group or to the chat, each show I pray a little bit ahead of time and I ask Spirit for some guidance, and I pick some oracle cards and tarot cards as a message for all of us today of things that we should be keeping in mind. And so I'm going to dive into those in a second. I just wanted to point out one thing. I'm not drinking a big old glass of red wine. As I was taking a sip, I realized it looked like red wine. And I know there's like some people do that on their show, but that's not me. This is actually a cherry concentrate. And I was sharing with Inbal before the show that this time of year, especially this last week or so, as we're going from winter to spring, more weather, like today it was 60 degrees out. It was gorgeous here in Wisconsin, that our bodies want to detox from all of the winter stuff. And something about tart cherries, I was just been craving it. And when I read the book, one of the definitions, it talked about how it's really good for detoxing and how it's good for inflammation and just kind of getting all the systems moving again after the sluggishness of the winter. So I was like, oh, all right. But anyway, it's cherry juice, guys. So just so you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. While we're on it, this is not gin. It's
there you
go.
All right. So the first card that we chose today is
let me put you on full screen so that we get like a closer.
A little closer. Gotcha. Okay. So for the first card, it's abundance. And this says it's a time for your life to flow with prosperity, love, and success. Remember, you draw from the limitless pool of the universe according to your beliefs and how much you deserve. Angel wisdom is reminding you now to believe in yourself and trust that you deserve the best and even more. Then you will attract that abundance and the true riches in all aspects of your life. So that's the first of the three. The second is opportunity to forgive. And this says the situation that you're going through brings you the opportunity to heal, to grow, and to release any negative patterns. Hold the intention of seeing the other person or situation in divine light and goodness. Your angels will help you release any unforgiving thoughts, feelings, and energies and lift you to a higher plane of peace and compassion. And then the third card is initiation. And initiation says this is a time of new opening and development. Powerful forces are inviting you into new levels of spiritual energy and higher dimensions. Positive changes are coming your way. So you can see how these three are very interrelated, right? That mindset of abundance, we have to forgive and forgive ourselves, forgive others, really have that clarity of our intentions. And that then puts us right for a position of transformation into that initiation, into the higher planes, the higher consciousness, becoming more and more of the being we want to be. Before I jump into the couple tarot cards, anything you want to share about those words for you and your belief system and what you teach others? Abundance, forgiveness, and initiation.
Do you know what? I really stuck into the compassion. When you said compassion, I was like, wait, because we're just going headfirst into an eclipse, and it's the first eclipse of the year. So we've got a total lunar eclipse coming up in the full moon. It's the full moon in Virgo. And what the eclipse does is uncover stuff.
Mm.
And we spoke about fear, and uncovering stuff is connected with fear. But first of all, we might be uncovering wonderful things. We might be uncovering, compassion, tenuous link. But where I was thinking as you were talking is about how we can decide in ourselves what we want to uncover. And I feel like that's such a life hack. When something astrological is coming and it's going to cause some changes, override it by deciding in advance what the changes will be. It doesn't always work, but sometimes yes. And if you're deciding within yourself that what you're going to uncover is your vulnerability, your compassion, your commitment to doing something and seeing it through all the way, then this is it. You get to decide what your eclipse lesson is.
Yeah.
And that will be it. That will be your, that will be your opportunity. So I actually love that Twisted has sent in opportunity to forgive. So that resonated with her as well. But as you were talking, I was thinking, if we're wanting to override those eclipse lessons, do it, double do it.
And what I think about with the different lunar cycles and solar cycles and some of the astrology is that those can be great opportunities and tools for manifesting. And the three components that I believe are really important behind that is, what is your intention? What are you paying attention to? And truly, what's your expectation? Because your expectation can override those other two. Yeah. And then based on those three, what thoughts or actions are you continually putting out there that are either in alignment with that intention, attention, and expectation, or are subverting it somehow? And the powers of the universe that shift and move with the planets and the moon and the sun, etc., they can be powerful aids to kind of bring more light and energy to whatever that process is and wherever you're at in the process. So going into it more mindfully and saying, oh yeah, this is a good opportunity, I'm going to use that, I think is a really wise, good choice, that people can make if they're aware of it.
Yeah, I really agree. And because we're going into this eclipse, which is going to be in Virgo, Virgo is a very organized, meticulous sign. So if your intention and attention are on point, then you want to harness your expectation to go along with them, because Virgo likes it when everything fits. It likes it when everything matches exactly. Yep. And so the whole three would ideally be the same, so that you're not working against yourself.
Right. All right. So then, thank you. Thanks. Great.
Thank you.
The three tarot cards I picked for past, present, future, and how they tie in now, or what's the lesson for now. So the first one is the Nine of Swords. And so this talks about the regrets, the mourning, the grieving over the mistakes, feeling overwhelmed with all the woulda, coulda, shouldas that of the mistakes from the past, or why am I not further along, or why didn't I start sooner, or all those kind of negative stinking thinking questions that sometimes get in our way. And then the present is the Knight of Swords reverse, saying, hey, don't lean on conventional wisdom. Don't go to the worldly place first for your answer. Go more to your intuition, that combination of your thoughts, your feelings, your knowings, that coherence between those three, and let that guide and rule the way you are. And if you do that, that will bring you to a future of the Ten of Cups, which is one of our happy ever after cards. This is a feeling of abundance. This is a feeling of joyfulness, somebody to share it with. And so if we're kind of bemoaning where we are now, and we're looking back at our past and saying, oh, I didn't make good choices, or I didn't set things up very well, or boy, I had negative momentum coming into this moment, use this moment to stop that. Don't get stuck in it, and use your intuition to really figure out, what do I want to do to change, so that on the other side of this, my future can be filled with my rainbows and abundance, and somebody to share it with, and love in my life, and prosperity in my life, and me feeling better about myself and my life and all the impact I'm having out there. So that's the tarot. And then the last thing to share that was from a message, and I'll just read this and we can stay split screen, and well, thank you, is from my book, The Portal to Potential. And I cracked open to the writing, which is called Sacred Journey. And it says, what hallowed halls we traverse as we explore the universal mind. The fractals of consciousness swirl with delight as they create and recreate the patterns within our lives. Energy flows where consciousness goes, a truth more profound than you know. Be at peace and have fun as your spirit explores all your collective consciousness has done. And so I thought this particular piece of inspired writing was kind of fun, because it reminds us that even though our life is a sacred journey, it can still be filled with joyfulness and fun and play and lightheartedness, right? It's so important to have that sense. And it's also about, what are we focusing on? What's important? And right before we came on, I shared with them, well, I had gone to an auction last night for the first time ever in person, right? I've been on like auction fundraisers for schools remotely, and like called in, and you silently bid on like specific items. And there's usually, I don't know, 5 or 10 of them. There's not a lot. Well, this is the first time I actually went to a country auction. And it's this big hall, and there are tables and tables lined up with boxes piled, filled with stuff. And along the walls, there's furniture and mirrors and paintings and other stuff mounted on the walls. And in the front, there's like the high value items. And they start with like lifting up one item. And the room had about maybe 200 people to start with. And, you know, they're bidding on, like, for example, one item that blew me away was a train whistle. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, it's about this big maybe, and some kind of metal. You would have thought this thing was, I don't know, like almost priceless. They were bidding so fast and furious, and all the bidding starts at $5 for no matter what the thing is. And then it goes from there. And this thing got going $350 for a train whistle. And I'm
for
like,
a whistle. For a whistle.
Right? And then another, well, they had gold like chains and stuff, you know, because basically what happens is when estate sales happen and there's leftovers, they give it to the auction house. Or if somebody dies and the estate, the people, not the estate, just the household goods, the family doesn't know what to do with it. They call, they ship everything to this place. They throw everything of the like kind of things, like all kitchen stuff together and all clothes together and all jewelry together in boxes. And then, you know, people buy them and they're listed by lots. And so whatever money goes into that lot goes back to the family minus the auction fees, right? So you just never know what you're going to find at this auction.
Yeah.
So towards the end of the night, so they do all like the single items first, and like the most bizarre things, like I can tell I was in Wisconsin because anything related to beer mugs, beer signs, beer, you know, containers, beer steins, they all went for lots and lots and lots, right? So I was like, this is really interesting to me. And you could tell that there were some antique shop dealers, because if something was more antique-y, right away they were bidding and it went pretty high. But the day-to-day stuff, like towards the end, in the boxes that were all there with the miscellaneous, whether they were Christmas decorations or Halloween decorations or Easter decorations or clothing or toys or books or records or whatnot, they're on the boxes. So they would say, okay, I have a box here of Halloween decorations. Do I have $5? And if nobody said yes, then they said, okay, well, along with that box, I have a box of whatever the next box was on the line on the table. I have a box of dishes. Okay, and these are, or whatever, glasses or Christmas mugs or whatever. Well, at one point, there was like 9 boxes full of stuff, and and finally they got to something like that I wanted in one of the boxes, that I had seen. I was like, oh, it was little stuff that I thought my adopted grandson would like. And so I was like, so they added that box to these other like 7 or 8 boxes of stuff. And I'm like, okay. So for $5, I got like 8 boxes, including clothes and all this other stuff. So I just went through, picked out the couple things I wanted, and I gave all the rest to Goodwill, to a store that was nearby. It's like, you take it. I don't want it. I just wanted those couple things. But it really made me step back and think about how we put value on things. Like the things I was bidding on were, well, I found a curio case so I can put all my crystals in, right? Because I love crystals. And so there was a curio case. I bid on that. I won that. I was thrilled. If that was the only thing I walked away with all night, I'm like, woohoo, I got that, right? And that was like really fun. But I was also looking at like some of the people, how they just were so passionate, even like coins, a single coin, and like how they would get in bidding wars. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting from a human nature point of view. So things that were very practical and useful, and maybe like somebody's personal treasure, you could get boxes of those for next to nothing. And yet like really obscure, antique or just weird stuff, like having to do with drinking, because we're in Wisconsin, those things went for small fortunes. And I'm like, wow, this is just so bizarre to me. But again, it made me think, like, what do we value? How do we show people what we value, right? Well, how we spend our time and how we spend our money are 2 big clues on what's important to us. So we want to make sure, if we're trying to live our best life and be the best possible version of ourselves, to be kind, to be impactful, and have that legacy of positively touching people's lives and being there for the people we love, we really need to be congruent with how we're spending our time and what we're spending our money on, that we're sending that same message to the universe or anybody that sees us, saying, oh yeah, that's important to her. Because look, she's taking her time to go be with those people, right? Yeah. It's like I'll tell you once, I'm a life coach, right? That's my main calling. And obviously a podcaster now. I love that, and an author and a teacher and all that kind of good stuff. But my first love is being that life coach. I had a client once, a man, and he came to me and he was bemoaning the fact that, the most important thing to him is his family. Okay, great. But he doesn't have time for the family because he's working 2 jobs and he's working overtime, and he, takes on extra work whenever he can, because he saw himself as a provider first. And that was how he expressed his care for them, was being that good provider. But it was creating a dissatisfaction because his kids were growing up and he was never able to go to their games, and he wasn't able to be part of their life. And his wife almost felt like a stranger at times, because by the time he got home, he was so exhausted and he wasn't thinking clearly about all the romance and all the things that you want to do to be that good partner for your partner that's in your life. And so I said, you have a decision to make. If you're telling me the most important thing to you is being there for your family, you got to figure a way to be there. And maybe just having the bar be being a provider at this level of income, maybe that's not the best metric to be structuring your whole life and making decisions around, right?
Absolutely. And I think for that specific example, maybe if he spent some time with the family and away from the work, maybe he'd have found a different idea of something that he could do for fewer hours and more money. You can't you can't really plan a new career or career switch when you're, face deep into that particular career. I've got to tell you something funny, because I'm no hoarder by any stretch of the imagination, but we are 6 people in this house. So the time to sort of get rid of, say, the baby clothes is when the baby is already 5. So we
Right.
have a bit of backlog. So I was watching some tidying inspiration on the YouTube. I love YouTube. And one of the tidying coaches said something that really resonated with me. She said, when you're holding something and you're thinking, am I keeping it? Am I throwing it away? You want to think, what would I pay for this if I had seen this in the shop right now? So, for example, and again, I'm not much of a shopper, and I'm also like I don't really like stuff. Like if I had unstoppable money, I would have holidays all the time.
Right.
I would be
Experiences.
traveling, right? I would
Right.
be doing things. But for example, I've got like one crystal ball. Well, I've got like 3 crystal balls, but one like main crystal ball. And if I didn't have a crystal ball and I saw that specific one in the store, I would probably pay for it exactly what I paid for it originally. However, we were doing one of the drawers a little earlier because I said there's a backlog, but we're trying to catch up with ourselves. And there were a couple of spatulas, like really nice spatulas for cake decorating. I don't know if you watch those videos, but I love watching those videos of the cake decorating. And I looked at it and I thought, well, if that was in the store, I would pay £0 for it because it looks really, really good. But why don't we put it in the donation box? Because somebody else will enjoy it a lot more than we will. And that kind of litmus test, what would you pay for it if it was for sale? What would you pay for it if you were having to repurchase everything? Really helps tidy up the value. And actually, for me, the value of my time, I work it out in the exact same kind of way. So sometimes I do jobs that are very far away from my house. And then I think to myself, am I getting paid for the job? Or am I really charging for being far away from my house? Like for missing the bedtime, missing the bath time of my children who are still quite young. And when I price up a job, it's for how much it takes me away from doing the thing that I want to do, which is, shampoo my children all by myself and rinse it all by myself like little puppies. And that is how I value it. So, for example, I do some like overnight jobs. I do like body language analysis for the press. So I've been doing all the award shows, not obviously on the red carpet like
How
like
fun.
Joan Rivers. That would have been so cool. But no, on
Yeah.
my sofa over there, because of the time difference, I'll do those jobs. So I'll start at midnight and I do it until about 7 a.m. And my husband says to me, are you okay? Will you be okay? You're literally missing a night. I don't have the time to sort of catch up with that night. And I say to him, I get paid for being up all night. What I do during that up all night, I'm typing. I don't mind. I could be painting, but what I do during that, up all night is less important. What I feel like, whoever hires me to do that, what I feel like they're buying from me is my being up all night. So this is what the charge is. So this is, to me, what the value is. Like, what value would you put? How much would you charge if somebody said to you, I'll bet you can't stay up all night, and you go, how much do you bet? That is the number.
Right. And also our values will change over time, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know for myself, you could probably tell just from my background, I'm a little bit more cluttered. I have collections. I was a rock hound. And then I have all kinds of tchotchkes and stuff that were my grandmother's or my mom's, and because to me, I'm a very sentimental person. And so when I see that thing, it reminds me of them or that time that we spent together. And so I happen to have, fortunately, a big house and plenty of space for all the stuff. But my feelings about them, especially lately, have been, I don't have children that I can leave these things to? I said, and most of my friends and family that are, well, the family that's left, but the friends are, some people are into it. They have their own, who am I going to give these wonderful treasures to? Right. This was like my grandmother's, like my amber that my grandmother smuggled into the country when she came here to avoid World War II. And she came on the steamliner and landed in Ellis Island and had this amber necklace hidden in her suitcase because she wasn't sure whether, they would take it when she came through, but she wanted something of value. And this wonderful story of this transatlantic trip and how she came here and, and then she handed it down to my mom and my mom handed it down to me. And it's like, I have nobody to hand it off to. So it has this tremendous emotional connection to me. And it has a fairly decent financial value now. And I'm like, well, should I just sell it and then use the money to take a trip or something? I'm like, no, not yet. But there's a lot of other things I'm looking around my house saying, I had friends new friends that popped into the house and I was showing them my crystal collection and they were oohing and ahhing. I just opened up a container. I'm like, help yourself. Like what calls to you? Pick. And it was my joy to be able to give that to them and share it. And it's like, it's not about the money anymore. It's about the energy exchange. It's about the experience. It's about, how that can bring joy to somebody else, that I've enjoyed these things. I have amazing paintings from a visionary artist from upstate New York that I don't think ever became famous, but his stuff is amazing. And I'm like, wow, it's in every room of my house. I have some of his painting. It's hanging up. And I'm like, I should figure out where to share this, to give this or give it to a gallery. But, I'm in Wisconsin, which no disrespect, Wisconsinites who are watching, but we're not the most classy when it comes to art stuff, right? That I picked up that when I was in New York and on the East Coast, and it was much more bougie, right, than it is here, or much more practical here in Wisconsin, right? You'll be more likely to see a picture of a cow on a wall than some creative artsy scene, but and I love it here, but there is something about how your values change over time, right? And there was something about having collections of different things, but then I had robberies twice and I had things stolen in my life. And you have to learn that lesson of letting it go, right? And then it's like, all right, well, what's important to replace after the robbery? You're like, did I really need that thing? Was it something like when I moved, I moved from New York to LA and then from LA here to Wisconsin within the last 10 years. I had 2 major moves. And when I think about all the stuff between the stuff from my mother's house, the stuff from my house that went to either storage or to LA, and then all of it that came here to Wisconsin, I literally am still going through. This is 8 years ago I moved to Wisconsin. I literally am still going through bins and boxes in my basement that it wasn't important at the time. Just stick it down there. And I'm like, I got to deal with this stuff and figure out what am I doing with it? But it's very healing to go through and throw out the garbage or throw out the old tax stuff you don't need anymore. And also find the occasional little gem of, oh, wow, I was looking for that, or I forgot I had that.
Yeah.
And that points out to me how my values have changed of what are the things that are exciting me now. Oh, it was a journal, or it was something really sentimental, and it has maybe no commercial financial value, but it was a card that my brother made for me, and he died when he died, 2006. So,
I'm sorry to hear that.
So 9 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, 2006. Sorry, 19 years ago.
19 years ago.
19 years ago.
A whole adult who can vote ago.
Right. And so finding that little sentimental thing meant the world to me now. And partly that's because I was never anybody who took for granted my family. And I always made a point of expressing to my friends and my family, upon leaving or being with them, I love you. I'm so grateful to spend time together, but I miss them. And, so those little things that bring me back to how I felt, when we were connected, or that reminder of, hey, I'm still with you. That's why you just found that now. It was like that little God wink or that spirit wink of, hey, look, you found that. Remember that? And you just have that wonderful moment. But yeah, values change over time. And but if you're trying to make improvements in your life, guys, if you're watching this and you're frustrated about not being where you want to be, I invite you to take a step back and really take a hard look at how you're spending your time and how you're spending your money. And if you're saying, oh, I'm really committed to developing myself, and you're not reading books or taking classes, and this may be, no guilt trips here, guys, but if this is the only hour you're even thinking about anything remotely spiritual or about your life or about yourself, you're not giving yourself credit. You should be spending at least 10% of your life. So we have 168 hours to each week. 16 hours a week at minimum should be yours to make you a better you in some way, to bring you joy, to bring you creativity, to pursue what's of interest to you, right? At a minimum. 10%, you are worth more than 10% of your life. But I know for a lot of people, they have to start small, right? So
Yeah.
those are important things. I'm offering a retreat in Sedona in May. And we've talked about it a little bit. And I'm co-leading it with Craig Janjulis, who's a modern mystic and shaman who lives in Sedona. And we're going to be talking about and leading techniques to quicken vibrations to help people be more in alignment for ascension. The workshop's called Preparing for Ascension. And I've talked to a few people, and it's $600 for 3 days. It's not crazy. But I talked to somebody from New York, and they were like, oh, I don't know if I can spend that kind of money to go there. And I'm like, that kind of money? I'm like, you spend $100 a week on a massage, right?
Wow.
That's important to you, right?
Yeah.
So can't you save up a little bit? If you're saying your spiritual growth and development and quickening your energy and learning how to tune into your intuition is really, truly important to you, well, compared to what? Where is the balance? And so no matter what it is, so of course I'd love to have my retreat totally filled. We have only 12 spots and 2 are already filled. We're trying to keep it nice and small. I'd love to have it filled quickly. I'd love to have it filled, but I'm going to run it, whether it's 2 people, 4 people, 5, I don't care. I'm committed to running it. But what I wanted to ask that friend, and what I want to ask anybody who's out here, is when you're considering doing a retreat or taking a Zoom workshop or taking a class or buying a book or buying whatever that tool is, the new crystal, a new pendulum, a deck of cards, whatever it is. If you're stepping back and saying, oh, I don't know if I can afford that, please follow that with compared to what? Because you are spending your money on something. You are spending your time somewhere. How you're spending your time and money, are they helping to support you on your journey to becoming the best possible you can become, but you just aren't there yet? Or is it distracting you and taking you away from the possibility of doing those things? Whether you join me or not, I want you to be thinking about those questions, because that's what really matters in your life. Where are you spending your time and money? That's going to tell you what's important to you. And if you have a disconnect between saying, this is what's important to me, but you're not doing that with your time and money, you got to square that away. Otherwise, you're sending mixed messages to the universe, and you're never going to manifest or get to where you want to be. That's my take on it. What are you thinking, Bob?
No, I really, really agree, because I see that in manifesting, that people go, my manifesting's not working. It's not working. And I'm so huge on something as simple as affirmations. I think manifesting doesn't need like a lot of bells and whistles. You can pack the incense away. It's not important. There's no need to wave the knives about, much as I love the knife waving.
right.
Wiccans and their cutlery. But when you affirm something, if you affirm something such as great abundance is coming to me, and yet when an opportunity for a big job comes and you say, the hours are not really my kind of thing, then the affirmation stops being an affirmation. It starts being just just a chit chat. It's just idle talk. So I hugely agree with that. And I think it's always a little bit unpleasant to sort of say it to someone, to say, I don't think you really want it because, because it's such a, such
Right.
an in your face thing. But when it's something that you truly want, you will walk over hot coals to get there. Are you walking over hot coals to get to where you're going? Are you? Oh, although, sorry, I just remembered that I was thinking about the amber necklace. I'll bet you there's a museum that would love that.
True. True. And I could
Think
also
about
tell the
it,
story.
like an
Yeah.
Ellis Island museum,
Right.
or
Right. True.
there's
True.
a museum that's like specific for the region that she came from, because I
Yeah.
love
No, that's true.
museums and
Yeah.
seeing things that are real, even if it's something that's almost with no context to anything. It brings me so much joy. I'd
Yeah.
rather walk around a museum than have stuff. I'm the exact
Yeah.
opposite to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
unsentimental.
One thing I want to add to that, being congruent with your thoughts and your actions, and where you spend your time and your money, is also have some forgiveness for yourself. We're all human. So you might be putting out there that positive programming and saying your affirmations and putting your thoughts out there and manifesting. And let's just say it's about weight loss, right? Okay, I want to get to my ideal weight. I want to have this ideal health. I want to do this and that. And then you go and you eat something triggers you and you go eat a food that's not going to be consistent with that outcome. You don't need to have a guilt trip or beat yourself up about it. You're like, okay, you know what? Oops, has happened. We're not perfect. The important thing is that you're self-aware. You notice that, hey, you know what? This action I just did isn't really congruent or consistent with the me that I want to be and I'm becoming. I just have to do less and less of it and be more mindful and make better choices when I can. And when I don't, that's okay. I forgive myself. I get back on track as quickly as possible, right? Because it's so important, because you don't want to spiral yourself out of control because you're like, oh, shoot, I just blew it. It's never happening now. I give up. Nope. You know what? If you realize that you made an oops, like that, you're putting out for prosperity, the job offer comes, you rationalize why it's not good. And now you're like, oh my God, I just blew it. I'm going to be poor the rest of my life. No,
tomorrow is also a day.
No, exactly. You're like, okay, oops, I realize you learned there. You learned that you missed an opportunity this time. Okay, do better next time. So get clear on that affirmation, put it out there again. And when the next opportunity comes, maybe you need to do an affirmation that has, I will attract prosperity to me that also affords me a wonderful lifestyle, or that allows me to live the lifestyle I want to have with my family and my friends. So you kind of you can stack them, right?
Absolutely.
So this way
you create the conditions. They're your affirmations.
Right.
Yeah. And, and the work-life balance is, I think, important for everybody.
Right.
But we're actually going to start running out of time. And I would love for you to share the details of your retreat, because I'm sure there's people that are at the very least curious about it. So who is it for?
Sure.
What kind of things will you be covering?
Yep. So it is May 16, 17, 18. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So for people who work during the week, they won't have to miss too much of work if they only want to come for those 3 days. And we're going to be doing a combination of working with tools, techniques, and skills and abilities in the mornings, and doing channeling and initiations and energy exercises in the afternoon to help raise and quicken and teach you how to sustain that and bring that back home. So it should be really a lot of fun. And it's in beautiful Sedona, Arizona, which is an energy vortex place that is just amazing. I just want to check, was there any question or comment in the chat that you noticed, Inbal? There was anything that we left hanging out there? I don't want to leave anybody hanging.
There weren't questions as such, but there was a beautiful quote from Kim. Well, not a quote, just an inspired sentence that I'd love to just sort of give it a little bit of highlighting, where she says, the next second isn't promised. You're here now. And I
Excellent.
loved that so much. She was saying that in support of A Little Twisted, that was saying that she'd like to sort of spend more time spiritually. And I absolutely adore that. So I'm pleased that you asked, because I flashed it up, but I didn't say anything. So thank you, Kim Princess.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And that's also, I had a friend that had terminal brain cancer, and we talked a lot about the blessings of having a terminal diagnosis, because all of us are terminal. We just don't know it. We all are dying. We just don't know how fast or long it's going to take until we get to that transition point. And so living as though you have an eternity of time on this side of the veil will be a recipe for procrastination for a lot of people, or I'll get around to it. Oh, it's not that important. But when you have that mindset of every moment counts, this could be your last, or you have an actual terminal diagnosis and you're like, oh, I only have 6 months to live. I'm not going to suffer the fools. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to make sure I'm doing the things that matter with the people I love the most. And in a way, that priority is something we should all sort of have most of the time, if not all of the time, except the world kind of distracts us and we kind of forget. And it's not until you have a wake-up call of a natural disaster where somebody young or somebody unexpected passes, or a loved one suddenly dies, or even if it has been an ongoing illness and they pass, in the face of that death and celebrating that life, it should be a wake-up call to live ours to the fullest, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, but thank you so much, Emma, for joining and co-hosting and producing, and y'all that tuned in. Thank you so much. This is my passion, and this brings me joy. It energizes me to share and to kind of bring through whatever spirit wants that. Because my legacy, as I said, I don't have children. My legacy is going to be in the messages that float around in the universe after I'm long gone, whether it's on social media or in books or in people's lives that I've touched. And they're like, yeah, once upon a time, I listened to this really crazy lady who used to be in New York and now was in Wisconsin, and go figure, Wisconsin, who knew, So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Keep sending all that good energy and mojo towards Grizzly. Keep him healing up even more. I think he'll be back next week, but we'll see. But everybody, please be kind to yourself. Do good out in the world. Love each other, and have a great week. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being with us. See you next time.
Bye.
Coming to a YouTube channel near you.